So in this video, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about this pen, and that's the Parker 75 fountain pen. This, in my estimation, is one of Parker's most interesting pens, if not their most interesting pen. And I would also say it's Parker's most collectible pen. I think a lot of people would venture to guess that the Parker 51 is their most interesting and collectible pen, but I would beg to differ. The Parker 75 is just a really cool pen with a really incredible history and some really interesting finishes, most of which the 51 never saw. So this one is often known as the Parker 75 Grid or the Parker 75, I guess it's officially known as the Parker 75 Sterling Silver Ciselé. And the Ciselé is this grid pattern on it. This is sort of the standard Parker 75 finish. It's sterling silver, so 925 sterling silver, and in this grid. Again, that's called the Ciselé. It's Ciselé, and the E at the end has an accent mark over it. So this is the iconic, or like, I guess iconic is the right word, Parker 75. It's a gold nib fountain pen, but it is sold in other pen types. There's a Knox style ballpoint, a mechanical pen, a roller ball. There's a few different pens. The fountain pen is the most collectible, and the 75 is sold in many other finishes. Some are special editions or limited editions. Some are gold. Some are gold that is plated over silver. There's many finishes, and I've explained some of them on Unsharpen.com. And there's many great histories of the Parker 75 available online if you want to do some reading. I picked this one up used. The pen was made from 1964 through the, I believe the early 90s or maybe the late 80s. And again, I bought this one used. I got a good deal on it because it had some imperfections. If you want it with some imperfections, you could find it maybe around 50, 60 bucks. In like new old stock type condition, you might be spending upwards of $200 to $300 on them, depending on the rarity. If it's just a Ciselé, then maybe like $200. If it's more rare, it could be in the $300 range. If it's ultra rare or limited edition, they may be upwards of $1,000, depending on the specific model. So I kind of wanted to run through it, and then we'll get into some of the fun specifics about the 75 and its history. So sterling silver body, both pieces have that grid pattern in the sterling silver, at least in this finish. It has, I believe these are gold-plated ends. With the Parker 75, that's called a tassie, and they unscrew, and you could like put a little vanity tassie on here. If you were like, say this was the 70s, and you're an executive at GE or GM or one of these powerhouse companies, you might have a little tassie up there that said GM or said Parker or your initials, something like that. This is back when your fountain pen was like having, it was like your cell phone. You carried it around all the time, and everyone was impressed with you had such a fancy one. The pen has a number of clips, and the clip varied throughout the year. So whether the clip is long or short, or has a short arrow or long arrow, these are all markers of the age of your pen. Mine did not have a clip when I bought it, so I had to buy a vintage clip and put it on there. I don't think this is the right clip for the age, but only a really serious Parker 75 expert would be able to eyeball the pen and the tassie and some of the other indicators and be like, hey, it's actually not the right clip for that pen. Opening the pen up, we could see it has a 14K gold nib. The gold nibs on these Parkers are a little bit plain. I would say it's like maybe one of the reasons that the pen is overlooked sometimes, just because it's like the nib is kind of plain Jane. It looks like a workhorse nib, which is what it is. The nibs, if you do buy it used, you gotta be really careful. The nibs are expensive. They would, like a new old stock nib would be at least 75 bucks online, and they're not as sturdy as they might look. The nib looks a little bit stout, but you have to be careful with vintage pens and gold nibs. The grip section is a triangular grip section, so it has carve out here, like a sort of grip area here, one here, and then a slightly flattened bottom. So the grip section is a little bit like the Lamy Safari, where it's semi-triangular with the two flat pieces or like holding pieces flaring out at 45-degree angles from the top, and then a little bit of an indent on the bottom. This piece is plastic. Unscrewing this, we could see that it is fully plastic with threading there, and this is a standard Parker cartridge. This is like one of the original cartridges from this pen. This pen was made in 1986, so I use an older cartridge, but the cartridges are the same. I just happened to want to use this cartridge, and I used it with new ink in it. I used just some Pilot ink. Inside, you can see metal threading and not too much else there. The pen, it does post, so you can post it up right here, post quite nicely. From a size standpoint, it's a nice size pen, not too big, not too small. This is these are 1/2-inch markers, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, just about exactly 5 inches for the pen, so good size. Putting it up to something else, here is a Sharpie, and here is a Pentel Touch or Pentel ball pen. So right in a really nice size range. A lot of the older Parkers are a little bit small, like the Parker 180. It's just too small, and it kind of ruins it for collectors. But this one is a nice size. Like I said, my pen does have a couple imperfections. It was missing the clip, but that's easy to replace. The cap is not on there that great, and that's because inside the cap, you can't see it here, is like a little metal piece with 4 metal fingers that kind of like branch out. That's called the clutch, and that's what holds it on here, and my clutch is just a little bit shot. This won't fall off, it's on there pretty well, but it could definitely stand to get a new clutch. And if you unscrew the tassie here, you could push that the inner cap out, and you could see the inner cap and the clutch. So I think that's sort of the general what's up with the pen, and I wanted to get into a couple specifics if you are buying them so you know what to look out for. So first off, the finish is the big thing. Like I said, this is the Ciselé. That's the most popular one. There's many other finishes. Many are gold. Some are diamond patterns. Some are like a damier. There's just a lot of different finishes, maybe like 10 or 15, but many of them are rare. So you're really going to see this one most of the time. One thing you want to look out for is this. This is the tassie. This one is called a dished tassie. It has a little cup in the middle. There's also a flat tassie. The older ones have a flat tassie. Then you want to look out for if this piece is fully plastic or if any of these threads back here are metal. The metal threads are older. The fully plastic one is newer. Then there's what they call here, these are the grip ridges. This one has short, basically shallow grip ridges. Later on, earlier they had longer grip ridges, so that's a good indicator, but that was really hard to tell online, so I wouldn't give too much of an indication into that. There's also this piece right here. This is called the section band. On this one, it is blank. On earlier pens, it had a little indicator here, like little hashes, little dashes up and down, and right here it had a 0. And the 0 was an indicator of where your nib should go if you were to remove your nib for cleaning the pen or replacing the nib. And it had, again, right along this gold piece here, there would be little indicators. On the earlier models. On the later models, it is blank. Like I said, the clip is a pretty good indicator of what year your pen is. This one has, like I said, it's hard to tell. I don't have another one here, but this one is a long body arrow and a short arrow head. That is that's the newer design. The older pens had a shorter arrow body and a longer arrow head. Then if you have a later model pen, you can read this over here and you'll see some information about it. This is a wide cap band. You can see the width is like 3 of these blocks. Earlier on, they had a narrow cap band, and the narrow cap bands were usually blank. They didn't have the writing on it. The cap band is actually really interesting on this pen. You see there's a Parker logo. It says Parker. And then we see MD, sterling 925, so 92.5% sterling silver, made in France. That is, that little face thing is actually a face, and that is an indicator of the 925 sterling silver. If this was a different symbol, it might be a different percentage of silver in the mixture that was used to make the pen. And then that's a Parker logo. And then last thing, the most interesting part is that right there. That is a YI. That's a date indicator. YI is 1986 in the last quarter. And that's just something you could look up. Basically, Parker got the word quality pens, the words quality pens, and they used the letters, the QUA, those letters, to each letter indicated a year, and then they used varying second numbers or letters to indicate the quarter. So Y happens to be 1986, and I happens to be the final quarter, like Q4 of 1986. In the models after 1970 or so, you will have a date indicator, so it's very cool. So that is probably more than you ever want to know about the Parker 75. We'll do a quick writing sample, and just keep in mind that some of these pens are old, some of them have a lot of miles on them, so they're going to vary from pen to pen. This is a medium nib, so this is the Parker, can't write with this in front of me, this is the Parker 75, and this model is called the Sterling Silver Ciselé. It's a nice smooth nib. It's a really nice writer, but it doesn't have a lot of spring to it, even though it is a 14K gold nib. It's kind of more of a workhorse nib. I like it more than I like the nib on the Parker 180 or the Parker 61 or 51. Like most of the other mainstream collectible Parkers, I tend to like this one more, but it is generally has that sort of workhorse nib quality to it. It doesn't have any problem keeping up. Mine needed a good cleaning. I did a cleaning with that platinum cleaning solution I did a review on a couple of weeks ago, and after that, it was good to go. It didn't need a deep clean. It didn't have to be taken apart or anything like that. Like I said, the nib's not particularly interesting. It just says Parker on it, made in France. These were made in France for a time. There, I think, is the little indicator of the 14K. And then it says, really small there, it says 585 medium. So 14K gold is 58.5 or 585% gold. And then medium is the nib size. Usually on the underside of the feed, there'll be some other indication. In this case, it does say medium. So nice writer, reliable, easy to use, easy to clean. You know, it's reasonably smooth, not crazily smooth. There's not a lot of bounce or springiness to this nib. It's fun. You can tell it's 14K gold, not steel. Definitely more fun than the Parker's 51 for me, but it's not a super characteristic nib. It does post, like I said before, posts quite nicely. And I think that's pretty much it. If you are interested in buying a Parker 75, then I would be pretty careful about the quality you have to it. There'll be some issues that are very small, like you could buy a new cap, or a new clip rather. That's not too hard of a fix. The cap band being loose, or sorry, the cap clutch being loose is a little bit of a problem, a little bit harder to fix, but not crazy. You know, you want to try to get some good picture of the cap band so you could see what's going on with the pen. Check out your chassis, make sure both of them are there. If those aren't there, then could be, they could be like 15 bucks each to get them replaced. And basically, if you get too good of a deal on the pen, you'll be putting in money later on to restore it. So I think that is pretty much it. This is the Parker 75 Ciselé, just a super, super cool pen, and one of my favorite vintage pens of all time. Very collectible, very fun to use, and a lot of fun to research. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know below. If I got anything wrong, please let me know. And then thanks for watching.